How's it going, everyone? This is Super Loud Ninja here, and what we are going to do is we're going to analyze this video and see where the suspect went wrong. There was a video on YouTube called Why You Consent to Nothing. That is the title. You can go search it and check it out. The topic of debate is everyone is so angry at the police officers, saying the officers were totally wrong. They used excessive force because they end up tasing the guy, okay? The guy ends up getting tased in the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to analyze and see what led to his tasing and if it was justified and basically everything that has to do with that portion. Also, the title is called Why Consent to Nothing. And before we get into that, let me show you a little bit of the rules for South Carolina where this happened. So what we have here is South Carolina DUI laws and BAC limits. And we're going to look at this, and what this is going to show you is, during the video, the guy does some things that gives the officer reasonable doubt that he may be under the influence of some type of substance. All he has to do is fit any of these, and this officer can have reasonable doubt, or reasonable suspicion that he was. And it says, under this law, the prosecution must show that the driver was impaired by alcohol. The level of impairment is usually based on observation of evidence, driving ability, or rather inability, physical appearance, field sobriety tests, which is conducted, which you will see in the video, and any other relevant evidence, blah, 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 blah. Now, here's where the guy messed up. He did making a turn too widely or narrowly. First off, you're going to see in the video that his turn is very narrow. He makes an abrupt turn to the right without using proper signaling. He also did not use his turn signal, all right? Plus, he's speeding is the whole reason why he gets pulled over. Erratic braking. He also does some erratic braking. Well, actually, he brakes right in front of the police officer, slams on his brakes before he makes an erratic turn to the right. Now, if some of you would do research instead of just talking out of your asses, you know, that's what most people do. And it's only took me 5 minutes to find out, and that is that South Carolina has some pretty strict rules on driving under the influence. Also, their history has some pretty crazy stuff going on with the prohibition. It was very active in this state. Now, let's look at this. The video on YouTube says, Why Consent to Nothing? That's the title of the YouTube video. Well, guess what? There's no saying why consent to nothing, because guess what? South Carolina is an implied consent state. What does that mean? South Carolina law requires that you take a blood or breath or blah, blah, blah test. South Carolina's implied consent law says that if you are lawfully arrested by an officer who has probable cause, okay, to believe that you have been driving under the influence, then you consent to taking a chemical test of your blood for determining your alcohol and your urine to check for drugs. It depends on what test he wants to give you, but you have to. Why do you have to? Because guess what? When you went to go get your frickin' license, all right, in South Carolina, where this happened, you basically said somewhere that you are going to go with the implied consent law. All right. Well, it says South Carolina Code annotated, blah, 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 blah. Well, let's go there. So here we are at the actual website. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Here it is. Implied consent for testing for alcohol, drugs, procedures, inference of DUI. Okay, now let's check this out. A person who drives a motor vehicle in this state, we're referring to the state of South Carolina here, folks, is considered to have given consent to chemical tests of his breath, blood, or urine for the purpose of determining the presence of alcohol and drugs. Okay, blah, 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 blah. All right, they go over all kinds of laws and stuff inside this kind of stuff, okay? Okay, so let's go to this other one, South Carolina. It's basically saying the BAC limit is 0.08. They have a zero tolerance for underage. However, you have to be above the 0.2. Here's the implied consent to submit to a test. Yes, implied consent in this state. You have to consent to the stuff. What happens if you refuse? What if you refuse it? It talks about it over here. It talks about what happens if you refuse. If we scroll down here, all right, suspension of license for refusal to submit. I'm not going to go over that. A lot of you know what happens if you refuse, all right, and it goes over that. I'm not going to go into all that kind of stuff. Okay, you guys do your own research. You know what I mean? So the video, Why You Consent to Nothing, guess what? He has to consent. It's the frickin' law, okay? Second off, he made these two things right here. erratic braking and this, as you're going to see in the video, that is why he is being suspected of possible driving under the influence of alcohol, which therefore the officer is going to ask him to step out of the vehicle. He has to. There's no question about it. So with that said, you guys see some of the law involved here for South Carolina. Let's now start the video analysis and see what happens. Okay, what we have here is it's called The Fuzz, Cops Under Fire. It was a documentary type TV show. I believe it started in Australia, if my research serves me correct. And basically there's a narrator. This guy, he's narrating and he's being really sarcastic. He's really downplaying everything the officers are doing. And, you know, he's trying to be sarcastic and funny. Okay, that's cool for entertainment, but that's it. Entertainment, right? Now check it out. This is a great example of the psychological barriers that are created by the media. And what kind of psychological barrier am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that as he's narrating, even though what you're seeing with your eyes, the fact that he's narrating and trying to downplay the intelligence and everything that the officers are doing, trying to make them out to seem bad, you actually start to view it from his viewpoint. So with that said, let's start. And what you're going to notice right away is the car is going to be driving down the street. The police officer is going to be behind him, and then he's going to flip on his lights. Once he flips on his lights, I'm going to come to a section and pause it because that is when the driver applies his brakes, and you're actually going to see a little bit of smoke, what I believe may be smoke. But if it isn't, it's regardless, but I'm going to show it to you.
When cops in South Carolina spotted this car swerving across the road late one night, they recognized.
So get ready for the freeze frame. Tell me, who does this? Who slams on their brakes when a cop turns their lights on, goes across 2 lanes of road, okay, without even signaling, okay? That's what just happened. That's what you just saw. Now, let's freeze frame in on the actually smoke, what I believe might be smoke from his tires. Let's check it out.
When cops in South Carolina spotted this car swerving across the road late one.
So here you can actually see the smoke that came up from the tire from when he slammed on his brakes.
Night, they recognized what they thought were the familiar sights of the typically plastered motorist and assumed this would be an open and shut case.
The vehicle just swerved to the right, come to a sudden stop. Good Lord, man. Look at the marks you just left. Well, learn from me.
They're talking about skid marks there, viewers. Skid marks. Anyway, the officer approaches for a quick chat.
45. Is there any reason why you slammed on the brakes and pull off to the side of the road?
Because you asked me to stop.
Now, do you see how the narrator kind of twisted the officer's words or question to make it seem like it's 2 questions? Because when the officer goes and pulled over to the side of the road, and then the narrator goes, well, because she told me to, basically because, you know, the lights are on. Well, it wasn't 2 questions. It was all one single question. And that is there any reason why you slammed on your brakes and pulled over to the side of the road? It's all one question. It's not asking 2 questions. So he's not asking him, why did you pull over to the side of the road? That's just what the narrator wants you to think. He wants to automatically bring down this officer's credibility.
How much you had drinking on?
When the driver admits he has been drinking, it's time for the sobriety test.
Step out.
But things don't go as planned.
So when he was asked if he had been drinking, he said not much. So now we have a possible driving while intoxicated, DUI, whatever, and that is what the police officer is going to establish with the sobriety test. Now, during the sobriety test, I'm going to let it play through. The narrator is going to say he's pretty much passing it with flying colors. However, he did stumble like at one point when he's doing his walk along the line. But anybody can stumble. Anybody can mess up during a sobriety test, even if you're 100%, not drinking at all. You could be really plastered and they can just tell. I mean, you could be swerving all over the road. You're totally drunk. And it's like anybody would say, yeah, that motherfucker's drunk, right? They would still have you do a sobriety test, even though they know you're well past the limit.
The driver seems a bit put out that his sobriety is being questioned. He explains that he's just collected his mother from a night job and is taking her home, but the police interpret his protestations of innocence as awkward behaviour and decide to search him. They sense the possibility that this bloke could be trouble, so one cop gives his pepper spray a good shake just in case.
All right, so the guy had his hands in his pockets. They told him to remove them. He's already been acting suspicious. So for the officer's safety, he initiates a Terry pat down and basically just checking and searching them. Now, a lot of you are like, oh, why are they searching them? Blah, blah, blah. You're not an officer. You're not out there doing what they're doing. These guys are putting their lives on the line every day. This guy could have a gun in his freaking pocket, pull it out, start waxing people, right? So that's why they're asking him to remove his hands from his pockets. That's why they're doing the search now, to make sure that he has nothing on him for their safety. And a quick note about this is that I'm 13 years U.S. Army infantry. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan as infantry. Now, I wouldn't really correlate what happened over there as far as getting shot at, with all kinds of different weapons by the enemy when we're doing our raids and our patrols and getting blown up by IEDs. Some of the IEDs I encountered while I was over there next to my vehicle. The cops aren't out here dealing with that kind of stuff. However, they are dealing with dangers that all of you have seen videos of officers getting shot. We all know that people kill officers or try to shoot them, or, when they're in a state of, distress, they want to try and get away. People do stupid shit and they want to kill the officer, shoot at him to scare him to get out of the situation, right? So we all know they put their lives in danger. And I just thought I'd let you know that piece about me. Also, I have a friend, he's a state trooper, and I do ride-arounds with him. So when I'm out there with him, you're basically always on guard. You're cautious, the same when I was in Afghanistan or Iraq. You never know what's going to happen, so you got to use the utmost careful. You got to be very careful. That's basically what they're doing. Their life is on the line. Your life isn't on the line, so you're not worried about it because it isn't you, but it's them. So I have no problem with him shaking up his pepper mace or asking him to remove his hands from his pockets or asking him to search. If it was me, if he wanted to fucking search me, you know what? I'm just going to get out and let him search me, for his safety, because I know what it feels like. You don't. A lot of you do not know what that feels like.
The driver continues to protest his innocence, but has by now adopted a blasé attitude that seems to really wind the cops up. The officer now moves on to the tried and tested method for determining if someone's too drunk to drive, hoping to wipe the smug expression off this bloke's face once and for all. But he does surprisingly well, and they feel he has the audacity to call into question parts of the test.
I think you told me to pivot on my right foot, but I'm asking you because I don't remember. Okay, I explained the test to you. You did explain to me, and I'm asking you. One portion of the test is, am I pivoting on the foot that is in front of me, which is my left foot, or do you want me to pivot on the foot that is behind me?
Seems quite polite to me. This really winds the cops up.
He's been real edgy, just real snotty with us and giving us a problem. Oh yeah, he's got a strong odor.
Yeah, he looks like real trouble, yeah. And he smells. You can't say someone smells. I guess these cops didn't like the thought that someone might actually pass one of these tests.
Georgia law requires you to take some preliminary tests in order to determine what your alcohol level is. If you don't take the preliminary test, then your driver's license could be taken and suspended for 1 year.
All he's doing is asking a few questions about what's going on.
The fact that you're displaying manifestations that you are unsafe when driving on the roadway and under the influence of some substance, whether it be alcohol, drugs, or both.
So even though this bloke passes a sobriety test with flying colours, the cops decide they want to nick him anyway. Hang on. Is it just me, or do you think the police are being a tad heavy-handed there?
Get on the ground. Get on the ground right now. You're going to be tased.
You're going to be tased?
Put your hands behind your back right now. Get down on the ground or you're going to be tased. Stay in the car. Stay in the car. Put your hands behind your back.
It's a bit over the top, isn't it?
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
It's getting a bit Lord of the Flies, this.
Put your hands behind your back. He's opening your feet. Put your hands behind your back. Don't move.
They're definitely going to taser him. But even with the suspect flat on the ground...
All right, so the officers established that this guy's under some type of substance or alcohol or both. He even tells the guy. And then the other guy's telling him to turn around. He tells him many times to turn around. Basically, he's going to be detained. I mean, Anybody can tell that that's what's going on, right? Even you sitting here watching the video can tell that right when he said, okay, turn around, it means you're about to be detained, right? Now, the narrator starts talking, and then you can't really hear the voices of what everybody's saying, but they could have said, I'm not sure because you can't hear it. They probably told him he was under arrest as he was walking to the vehicle because he was probably asking, why do you want me to turn around? I don't know. We can speculate all day because we can't hear that part. But all we know from the first part is that he was told to turn around and he didn't. He was also told to put his hands behind his back. He did not put his hands behind his back. If someone's telling you putting your hands behind your back and they're an officer, it probably means you're being detained, right? Since this guy is not complying with any of their commands, the officer pulls out his taser and he goes to the far left and he has a taser pointed at him for precaution in case the guy wants to run, fight, or do anything. I don't see anything wrong here. He just has his taser pulled out. He's also being warned, hey, you're going to be tased, okay? So it probably means you should probably comply with what they're saying. He is then told to get on the ground after being told many times, put your hands behind your back. He's just told to get on the ground. So then he gets on the ground. Now, this is why he gets tased. The officer is putting on the cuffs, and when this starts playing, you're going to see his hands come from the cuffs to his sides in a push-up type position. And it's a real fast jerking movement. The other officer, not the one handcuffing him, but the one with the taser, is trained to be looking right at his shoulder. And then right when if a guy makes any sudden movements, when the other officer takes off to the left, that is a signal for him to tase. They're doing what they're trained. The guy made a sudden movement. Now, let's think about this realistically, though. The reason why it happened is because they are all in place. The taser guy's in place, the officer's in place, he's ready to move if something happens, so that's why he gets tased. Now, could they have just, look how many guys there are. They could have just grabbed his hands and reattempted, but no, they told him, hey, you're going to get tased. So he didn't comply. He put his hands out to his side, and he got tased. Now, there was a comment or an argument that, what if he had a shoulder injury or something like that? He's trying to keep his face off the ground. I can lie on the ground with my face on the ground and put my hands behind my back. If he had a shoulder injury or something like that, well, he already had his hands behind his back for just a couple, split seconds. I mean, his shoulder could have acted up. It could have very well been that, but guess what? It doesn't matter. The officers are trained. The guy swoops to the left, the officer, and the other guy opens the taser. I do agree that they could have, done it maybe a little differently. I mean, they could have grabbed the guy and put his hands behind his back, but they did legally what they were legally allowed to do. Even though we might not agree with it, they were legally in the right, and I'm pretty sure when this video was investigated, if it was investigated at all, right when the investigators saw him move his hands out to his sides, they initiated the taser. They're going to say, you know what? He moved his hands out to his sides. He made a sudden, quick gesture, and that is why the officer tased him, even though he had been warned that you're going to be tased. So let's play the video, and let's see those hands come out to their sides into the push-up type position, and then he's going to get tased.
And absolutely no threat at all. The cops can't resist a quick pop.
Now, even though the cops were in their legal limits, I'm sure, to do what they just did, to tase this guy, I don't feel that they needed to. I mean, the guy did not actually get up and run. He didn't go anywhere. And if you notice, he immediately put his hands behind his back. Like I said, I'm going to call it like I see it. So you're probably like, wait a second, why are you defending this guy all of a sudden? No, I'm just telling you that if you watch the video, he does put his hands out to his side, and which the other cop leaves, which causes him to get tased. But right before the guy tases, he does put his hands back behind his back. So I'm not really sure why he put his hands out to his sides. I really wish he wouldn't have, because it probably wouldn't have led to him getting tased, but he did. So that's why he got tased. I mean, we can't deny the fact that that's why they tased him. Some would say also that maybe the cops had a big ego and he was pissing them off, because they did mention earlier in the video that he was being, snotty. Was ego a part of this? Possibly. But they're going to argue their legal right, which was he moved his hands out from behind his back. And I feel sorry for the guy. I wish he wouldn't have done it, because it led to him getting tased. And I do see that he did put his hand behind his back. But we all know that there's really nothing that can be done about that, because they're going to argue that they were within their legal rights to tase him.
Look, they've even got a song for when they're tasering someone.
Stay in the car, stay in the car, stay in the car.
So having neutralised the threat of the completely passive driver, the cops now turn their attention to the urgent matter of his elderly mother, who they pepper spray into submission. What's going on?
Okay, so let's talk about this lady. I know the announcer, the narrator for the TV show saying his mother, the elderly woman, to me, she doesn't look elderly. Now, she may be, and she may very well be his mother, but you need to be careful because sometimes the roles that they put on people and what they say about the people in the video are not true. I know this for a fact because I was watching the TV show. I can't remember what it was, but I had seen the original footage and I knew about the case. And the announcer gave the people inside the video totally different roles and who they were. So you need to be careful about that. It very well might not even be his mother. Now, if it is his mother, okay, whatever. To me, she doesn't look elderly. Well, she might be elderly. Okay, well, whatever. Here's the thing. She did get out of the vehicle. All right. And she was told to stay in the vehicle. However, you got to think about this. She's getting out of the vehicle because she just heard something that sounded like a gunshot. Well, it's not. We know it's not a gunshot, and I'm not sure if she's ever heard a gun go off, but it was pretty loud, and I'm sure she heard it. So she is totally concerned for the guy's life. She's like, oh my God, they just shot this guy. They just shot my son or my husband or whoever the damn guy is to her, right? And she's concerned. I mean, who would not get out of the vehicle and see what the hell is going on? You know what I'm saying? So I understand fully well why she got out of the vehicle. To me, it looks like she I'm not sure if she throws something or if it was just some gesture she was making towards the officer with her finger. Now, the officer does do what they are trained. He yells, taser, taser, taser. But this woman, she probably doesn't know it's a taser. Okay, so again, I fully understand why she got out of the vehicle. I probably would have done the same damn thing, but you know what? I probably would have been getting wrestled to the ground too. If someone I know and I'm in the vehicle and they're getting tasered, I wouldn't know if it's a gunshot or not, but you know, some guns sound different. And I'm in the car, maybe the sound changed, you know, it's going to be at a lower decibel level. However, I think most of you would have got out of the vehicle too, and you probably would have got wrestled to the ground because you are concerned for the life and safety of your person that is in the vehicle with you. But let's look at the facts. And the facts are that they told her to get back in the vehicle, all right, and she didn't. So she got wrestled to the ground because they were trying to turn her around and she was fighting with them. I mean, that's what they're going to use, right? They're going to use that against her and it's going to hold up. I mean, there's really nothing she could do. You can't really fight it because, I mean, if you look at it from a legal standpoint, she did get out of the vehicle, she was told to get back in the vehicle, and she wrestled with them.
Unbelievable! This is almost like a microcosm of America's foreign policy. This is phenomenal. Unbelievable. What happened? What did we just witness? Sleep well.
All right, everybody, thanks for watching this analysis. Some of you are not going to agree with what I say. A lot of you are closed-minded. I mean, I'm able to look at this with an open mind, and I can see it from both points of view. But we need to think about the facts here, and the facts is that the law is going to be the law, all right? I know a lot of you don't like law enforcement. I've just as well as me, I don't like, you know, crooked cops. I've been a victim of, I guess you could call police brutality. I've had two officers push me up against the wall because I came around a corner. My friend was being arrested, and I didn't know what the hell happened. I walk up on the officer. I'm about 4 feet away from him. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, hey, what's going on? He says, step away, step away. And I'm like, oh, that's my friend. I want to know what's going on. Next thing you know, two officers are shoving me up against the wall with their hand, with his arm, doing an arm bar across my throat. You know what I'm saying? And I was kind of pissed off about it. But now I know I was hindering and opposing, okay, when I look back at it. I could have grabbed the officer's gun. I could have tried to wrestle with him. And I was hindering his ability to do his job. The one that I'm not going to retract on is I have been the victim of a police officer writing a false report against me. Now, it didn't hold up in court, and I ended up not getting nothing for it. But he did write a false report about me. He was very exaggerative in his statement. It seemed like he was trying to help someone else that was involved in what happened. And so I've been a victim of some stuff, okay? So I'm not just sitting here like, oh, I love all cops. You know, all law enforcement is right, you know. I can look at everything from an open standpoint, and I won't be biased about it. I see many videos where the cops were just totally wrong, you know what I'm saying? So besides all that, hope you guys liked the analysis. I know I talk a lot, but I think I have some pretty cool things to say. If you subscribe, that'd be cool. And if you think this video is good, you know, give it a like. Even if you didn't like the video and you didn't approve of it or you don't think I'm right in my analysis, please, by all means, tell me. Go into the comment section, say something about it. You know what I'm saying? I will listen to whatever you have to say. Now, I'm going to get trolls. They're going to be like, oh, you're a fucking pig lover, you know, crazy shit like that. But they're just ignorant fools. You know, I don't pay them no attention. Most of them are probably uneducated. They have no life, you know, keyboard warriors and all that kind of stuff. Another little bit about myself is I am going to school for electronics engineering and criminal justice. So I'm doing a double major, pretty much almost done with all that. So I got a couple of law classes, you know, I don't know everything. And as I said, I do ride around one of my friends. He's a state trooper. I've gone on a couple of ride arounds with him. He's a pretty straight shooter. He's never done anything that I seen that was, you know, questionable. He's a real fair guy. So not all officers are bad. I hope that a lot of you can see that or think about that. Anyway, I'm going to stop boring you guys with stuff about myself. Again, subscribe. I got more stuff. If there's a video that you want me to analyze, all right, you give me the link. I'll see if I can make it happen. All right. And that's pretty much it. So I'll talk to you guys later, I guess. Peace.